Lu Wei adjusted his glasses, the left arm precariously held together by a tiny piece of tape. It was just another Tuesday in the bustling cafe known for its oddly shaped pastries and a decor that seemed to have been curated by an art student on a caffeine binge. The walls were painted in neon colors, and the tables were mismatched. One was a round, wooden affair that had seen better days, while another was a glass-top monstrosity held up by three crooked legs. It was the kind of place where you'd order a coffee and leave with an existential crisis. He sat across from Maggie, a woman with striking red hair that reminded him of autumn leaves and a smile that could light up the dimmest corners of the cafe. She was beautiful, smart, and just the kind of person he'd read about in self-help books that claimed you could manifest your ideal partner with positive thinking. The only problem? Lu Wei had the charisma of a damp sock. "Tell me about your last adventure," Maggie prompted, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Lu Wei's heart raced. Adventure? He was about as adventurous as a microwave dinner, right? "Well, there was this time I went to a different grocery store," he blurted out, trying to infuse excitement into his mundane life. He chuckled nervously, desperately searching for an exciting angle. "They had organic kale, and I almost fainted from the excitement." Maggie raised an eyebrow, suppressing a laugh. "Kale, huh? Wild man, you are." "Yeah, you know me," he said, waving his hands as if to conjure some semblance of coolness. "I live on the edge." Just as she was about to retort, a strange old man walked past their table, balancing an enormous hourglass that seemed far too heavy for his frail frame. It shimmered with a surreal light, casting an odd glow over the cafe. Lu Wei couldn't help but stare, captivated by the ancient artifact. "Hey, what's with the hourglass?" Lu asked, half in jest, half genuinely curious. The old man stopped, a toothless grin stretching across his face. "Time's just a suggestion, young man. You ever think about what you might be missing?" Before Lu could respond, the man bumped into Lu's table, causing the hourglass to wobble dangerously. Time slowed as he reached out to save it, but instead, the glass slipped from the man's grip, shattering spectacularly on the floor. A blinding light erupted from the shards, enveloping Lu Wei entirely. The last thing he remembered was Maggie's shocked expression morphing into something like awe, and then, nothing. Lu Wei found himself suspended in a strange, vivid landscape that looked like a cross between a child's dream and a bizarre art installation. Giant clocks hung from the sky like fruit on a tree, each ticking at wildly different speeds, while vibrant colors swirled around him, resembling a kaleidoscope gone haywire. He glanced down to see that his feet were floating a few inches above a shiny, reflective surface that looked suspiciously like liquid glass. "Great. Just great," he muttered to himself. "I finally get a date with a real woman, and I end up in some Dali painting." Suddenly, a booming voice interrupted his thoughts. "Welcome to the time gap, Lu Wei." Startled, Lu turned around to find himself face to face with a bizarre version of himself. The other Lu Wei was dressed in an immaculate suit, complete with a tie that screamed confidence, and a smile so wide it looked like it might burst. "Who the hell are you?" Lu demanded, instinctively stepping back. "I am Successful Wei. Your ideal self. The manifestation of everything you could be if you weren't such a coward," the doppelganger declared, striking a dramatic pose. "Right, and I suppose you have a yacht and a six-pack too?" Lu shot back, crossing his arms. "Actually, I do," Successful Wei replied, unfazed. "But it's not just about looks. It's about mindset. You see, you're stuck here because you refuse to confront your fears." "Fears?" Like the fear of never being good enough? Lou scoffed. Please. Successful Wei waved a hand dismissively. Exactly. You hide behind excuses. Let me show you. With that, Successful Wei spun around, gesturing grandly. As he did, the world around them shifted, and suddenly they were standing in a lavish office filled with gold plaques and certificates. A giant poster proclaimed, Lu Wei, Innovator Extraordinaire. Lu's jaw dropped. Is that supposed to impress me? I mean, what's the point of success if you're a complete jerk? Hey! I'm not a jerk. Successful Wei retorted, crossing his arms. I'm a go-getter. Besides, it's not my fault you never dared to dream. Just then, the scene shifted again, and they found themselves in a dingy high school classroom. The walls were peeling, and desks were scattered haphazardly. Lou recognized it instantly. It was his old school, where he'd experienced countless embarrassing moments. At the front of the class stood another version of himself, Regretful Wei, awkwardly reading a speech. His face was flushed, and he kept stumbling over his words. So, like, I think, Lou winced. Oh no. Not this. See? This is you at your worst, Successful Wei said, crossing his arms with a smirk. Too afraid to even speak in front of your classmates. You've let this moment haunt you, haven't you? Shut up. Lou yelled, frustration bubbling inside him. I was just a kid. Excuses, excuses. Successful Wei taunted, shaking his head. You've been hiding ever since. What's it going to take to make you confront this? Lou watched his younger self struggle to speak, the laughter of classmates ringing in his ears. Maybe if you'd shut up, I could. Before he could finish, the world twisted again, and they were suddenly in a bustling market, where an overly enthusiastic adventurous Wei was trying exotic foods and chatting up strangers. Lou felt a pang of envy as he watched this version of himself embrace life fearlessly. Look at that. He's living your dream. Successful Wei exclaimed, pointing dramatically. Yeah, because that's realistic, Lou scoffed. I'm not going to just up and travel the world with no plan. Who does that? Someone who isn't afraid to fail. Successful Wei shot back. You think all those moments of embarrassment define you? They don't. You're more than your worst days. Easier said than done, Lou muttered, his mind racing with memories of past failures. Perhaps you'd like to talk to him? Successful Wei suggested, gesturing toward Adventurous Wei. Lou took a deep breath and stepped forward, feeling a mix of excitement and dread. As he approached, Adventurous Wei turned, flashing a grin that made Lou feel both comforted and utterly inadequate. Hey there. You look like you could use some fun. Adventurous Wei said, clapping Lou on the back. Yeah, well, I'm kind of lost in this weird place, so fun isn't really on the agenda, Lou replied, forcing a chuckle. Oh, come on. Life is about embracing the unexpected. Try this. Adventurous Wei handed Lou a plate of bright, colorful food that seemed to glow. Is it safe? Lou asked, eyeing the dish suspiciously. Who cares? Just eat it. You'll never know unless you try. Adventurous Wei encouraged, his enthusiasm contagious. Lou hesitated but finally took a bite. The explosion of flavors was incredible, and for a moment, he felt a surge of energy. Okay, that's actually good, he admitted, grinning. There you go. See? Life's full of surprises if you let it be. Adventurous Wei exclaimed. Lou felt a stirring inside him, a flicker of the courage he'd always wished for. But just as he began to feel empowered, the scenery shifted again, and he found himself standing in front of a giant clock, its hands spinning wildly. He watched as the other versions of himself began to fade, leaving him standing alone in the chaos. Wait. Where are you going? Lou called out, panic rising in his chest. Time waits for no one. Successful Wei shouted as he disappeared into the swirling vortex. Don't run away. Lou pleaded. I'm trying to, but the voices faded, leaving him isolated. As he turned back to the clock, he felt a wave of loneliness wash over him, mixing with a sense of determination. He realized he had to confront his inner selves, not just for the sake of his dreams, but for the sake of his own happiness. Okay, Lu Wei, he whispered to himself. Let's see what you're really made of. As Lu Wei stood before the giant clock, its hands spinning in erratic circles, he felt an odd mix of urgency and calm wash over him. The vibrant chaos around him felt almost intoxicating, like he was on the cusp of discovering something profound. He took a deep breath, centering himself. This time, he was determined to engage with his inner selves, to learn from them, and to finally confront the parts of himself that he had long avoided. All right, let's do this, he muttered, stepping closer to the clock. As he touched the face, time warped around him, and suddenly, he was back in the cafe, standing in front of Maggie, who looked just as shocked as he felt. What just happened? She asked, glancing around, her eyes wide with confusion. Did you see that old man? And the hourglass? I was somewhere else. Lou stammered, the memory of the time gap flooding back. He hadn't yet learned to articulate his experience fully, but he could still feel the energy of the place pulsing through him. No. I just saw you staring at nothing and then start talking to yourself, Maggie replied, concern creeping into her voice. I promise, I wasn't just talking to myself. Lou insisted, glancing around the cafe as if expecting his alternate selves to emerge. I was in this world where I met versions of myself. It was surreal. Maggie raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched on her face. Versions of yourself? You sure you didn't just drink too much coffee? No, I swear. There was successful Wei and regretful Wei, and even adventurous Wei. They each showed me things about myself. It was wild. His enthusiasm bubbled over as he gestured animatedly, the words tumbling out faster than he could control them. Maggie chuckled lightly, her initial apprehension fading. Okay, let's say I believe you. What did you learn? Lou paused, the gravity of his revelations hitting him all at once. He had seen himself at his best and worst, but it was more than just a parade of his regrets and aspirations. It was an exploration of his very essence. I learned that I've been hiding. From life, from my dreams, and most importantly, from myself. Wow, that sounds intense, she said, leaning in, intrigued. It was, he said, feeling the warmth of her gaze. I kept thinking I needed to be perfect or successful before I could be happy. But the truth is, happiness comes from being real, from accepting my flaws. Maggie smiled, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. That sounds like a big step forward. What now? Now, Lou said, feeling a surge of confidence, I'm going to stop letting fear dictate my life. I want to pursue the things I love, writing, traveling, really living. No more hiding behind excuses. Sounds like a plan. And what about this date? Maggie asked playfully, tilting her head. Is that still on? Definitely, he replied, excitement bubbling within him. And it's going to be a real adventure, no more grocery stores, I promise. Just then, a commotion erupted as the cafe door swung open. A busker had entered, juggling 3 flaming torches while singing an off-key rendition of "Don't Stop Believin'." Lou watched, mesmerized, as the crowd began to gather around the performer, laughter and cheers filling the air. "Look at that. Talk about living life to the fullest," Lou said, gesturing toward the juggler. "I want that kind of energy in my life." "Then go get it," Maggie said, nudging him playfully. "You have the power to create your own adventure." Encouraged by her words, Lou stood up, the confidence coursing through him like a wildfire. "You're right. Let's join the fun." They rushed outside, joining the small crowd that had gathered around the busker. Lou felt the thrill of spontaneity wash over him as he clapped along with the rhythm, laughter bubbling from deep within. In that moment, he realized how much he had craved connection, joy, and the ability to embrace the unexpected. After the performance, as the busker took a bow and the crowd dispersed, Lou turned to Maggie, his heart racing. "What's next? I mean, really next? I want to make the most of this moment." Maggie's eyes sparkled with mischief. "How about we try that new escape room down the street? I hear it's intense." "Escape room? What's that?" Lou asked, intrigued. "Oh, it's like a puzzle. You get locked in a room and have to solve clues to get out. It's super fun, and it'll push you out of your comfort zone," she explained, practically bouncing on her toes with excitement. "Let's do it," he exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. "I could use a little challenge." They headed toward the escape room, laughter and playful banter flying back and forth. Lou felt alive, his heart full of possibilities. As they approached the entrance, he noticed a sign above the door, "Welcome to Time Escape." Lou paused, a sense of déjà vu washing over him. The name sent a shiver down his spine. "What a coincidence," he said, glancing at Maggie. "What's wrong?" she asked, looking concerned. "Nothing, just, it feels oddly familiar." He shrugged it off, pushing the nagging thoughts aside. Whatever connection this place had to his surreal experience, he was ready to face it head-on. Once inside, they were greeted by a cheerful host who explained the rules. "You'll have 60 minutes to solve the clues and escape. Remember, teamwork is key." Lou felt a surge of adrenaline. "We've got this," he said, giving Maggie an encouraging nudge. As the timer started, they entered a dimly lit room filled with intricate puzzles, cryptic clues, and a surreal ambience that felt almost like the time gap. Lou's heart raced with both excitement and trepidation. "Okay, let's divide and conquer," Maggie suggested, her eyes scanning the room. "Right." Lou agreed, determined to fully engage in the challenge. They began searching, pulling on drawers, deciphering codes, and piecing together the clues with the energy of a well-oiled machine. As they worked, Lou's mind danced between the thrill of the game and the lessons from the time gap. Every puzzle felt like a metaphor for his life. The keys to escape represented the choices he had yet to make, the fears he still needed to confront. "Here. Look at this," Maggie shouted, pointing to a riddle inscribed on a dusty book. Lou rushed over, and together they cracked the code, laughing as they realized how much fun they were having. "See? This is what it's all about," Lou exclaimed, a sense of freedom washing over him. "Solving problems, connecting with you, and enjoying the moment." With each clue they solved, Lou felt a layer of his old self peel away. He was no longer the hesitant, fearful man who had wandered into that cafe. He was alive, present, and engaged in life's adventure. Finally, after a whirlwind of laughter, shouts, and a few missteps that led to dead ends, they found the final key hidden beneath a loose floorboard. The timer buzzed just as they unlocked the door, the sense of accomplishment surging through them like electricity. They burst into the hallway, breathless and exhilarated. "We did it!" Lou shouted, pumping his fist in the air. Maggie cheered, wrapping him in a spontaneous hug that left him giddy with delight. "Next time, we need to do this with a bigger group." "I can't believe how much fun that was," she exclaimed. "Definitely," Lou replied, his heart racing not just from the escape room but from the realization that he was capable of so much more than he had ever allowed himself to believe. As they walked out onto the street, the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue across the horizon. The world felt vibrant, alive with potential. Lou glanced at Maggie, who was already looking at him, her expression warm and inviting. "Lou, I'm really glad we did this," she said softly. "You've changed." "Maybe I'm just starting to be myself," he replied, the truth of it resonating deeply within him. "And I'm grateful to you for being part of this journey." "Let's keep this momentum going," Maggie suggested. "What do you want to do next?" "Anything that makes us laugh," Lou said, and just then, he spotted a quirky food truck selling bizarre fusion dishes. "How about trying some weird food?" "Count me in." Maggie laughed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. They approached the food truck, its menu a wild assortment of culinary mashups. Lou felt a surge of excitement as they ordered something that sounded completely outrageous. "Spicy ramen tacos, anyone?" As they waited, he took a moment to soak in the joy of the day. Lou realized that life, much like the time gap he had visited, was a series of moments strung together, filled with opportunities for laughter, connection, and adventure. With every bite of the eccentric tacos, they shared stories and laughter, the bond between them growing stronger. Lou felt lighter, unburdened by the weight of his past failures, embracing the whimsical journey ahead. Later, as they strolled through the park, Lou couldn't help but reflect on his experience. "You know, I think I'm finally starting to understand what that old man meant about missing things. I was so focused on what I thought I should be that I forgot to appreciate what I already had." Maggie nodded, a knowing smile on her lips. "That's a big realization. And it's only the beginning, Lou." "Yeah," he said, feeling a warmth spread through him. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." With the stars beginning to twinkle overhead, Lou and Maggie continued their evening, laughter echoing into the night. Lou Wei had stepped out of his comfort zone, not just for one day, but into a life he was determined to embrace fully. The journey through the time gap had taught him that while time might be a suggestion, the choices he made were entirely his own, and in that moment, under the vast, starlit sky, Lou felt like he could finally breathe again. He was ready to live, really live, and he couldn't wait to see where this newfound adventure would take him. As the evening deepened, Lou glanced at Maggie, her laughter ringing like music in his ears. He smiled, realizing he was no longer the man trapped in a time gap, but a man ready to embrace every moment, flaws, failures, and all. The end.